Davenport has been identified as one of the poorest communities in the city of Toronto. There are a lot of people who are trying their best to survive on low incomes. We serve approximately 300 meals a day, if not more. We do breakfast and lunch. It's about providing good quality food. It's about providing food that is not just good for the participants who are consuming it, but also good for the local economy, supporting local farmers. It's good for the food system.
It's always mystified me why it is that the basic response to hunger in our communities has been the food bank. And I actually believe we need a much more honest conversation about food banking and how food charity is not the answer to hunger. The stop 14 some odd years ago was a really difficult place. It just wasn't a place that you felt good about walking in the door. We just wanted to hear what people had to say, and it was very clear early on that the food bank wasn't cutting it for them. But what they did say is that we want to be cooks, we want to be gardeners, we want to be volunteers, we want to be engaged citizens, we want to be involved, and that was a cue to us that we needed to develop programs that allowed people to be involved, to be engaged. From an equity perspective, over 1 million people use food banks a year. When you look at it from a health perspective, we see an enormous explosion of diet-related illnesses, from cancer to obesity to diabetes to coronary heart disease. And then when you look at it from an environmental perspective, close to 30% of the greenhouse gases and pollution in our country are related to the way we move food from field to table. So however you slice it, we need to start to think about how we get at these seemingly intractable problems. We need to start to build organizations that are transformative and that can move the dial in a measured way on poverty and hunger.
We started trying to figure out what the model was because we received so much interest in it. I mean, there's so much interest in food in general, and the STOP is one of the larger organizations doing this work. And we sat down and we wrote a paper a couple of years ago. The idea being that when you bring programs together under one roof, the sum can be more than its parts. The program mix, we decided is not important that it be prescriptive or repeated exactly. There are tons of programs that can be offered as part of a community food center, and programs that currently are being offered across the country as part of different initiatives. But bringing them together under one roof and roughly falling into the areas of access, skills, and engagement.
Community Food Centres Canada has been an inspiration to us. Through the STOP now, Community Food Centres Canada, we not only saw an injection of money, we saw an injection of knowledge, advice, guidance. We have something we could model ourselves on.
I think what I've noticed in this last year, and some of our participants say it very directly, is that they feel good coming to the table. It's very much a community center, and say our meals are probably the place where that's most obvious, because people come in, it's like they're waving across the room to the friends that they know from down the road or somewhere else, and there's a real family feel to the meals, to the garden as well.
What we're looking for in partners is we're looking for dynamic leaders who share our vision and values and who have both the capacity to see how they can meet a need in their community, but also how they can be part of something bigger.
So Stratford is a town of about 30,000 people. It's a place where food is very, very important. At the same time, it's also a place where there remains a bit of a disconnect between the great food that's out there and people who could really benefit from it. Really, it started as this sort of humble idea to have a warehouse for the food banks to access, and it's just blossomed into this amazing multi-dimensional project that's also going to include activism, advocacy, and all those great things that community food centers are going to become sort of synonymous with. To be the pilot for Community Food Centres Canada and to know that what we learn here will actually help other community food centers across Canada, it's really amazing. I think of a time when in the future a community food center will be something as ubiquitous as having a YMCA in your community or having a public library. People will say, of course we have a community food center. We're a community. We care about food, and we recognize the value that food has and the power that food has to bring our citizens together and to promote the health and well-being of the people who live here.